Sometimes when I hear buzz about a certain movie or show or something, I'll be like intrigued, but I'm not committing yet, and I say, okay, I'm gonna watch it for 10 minutes. It was about like 1:15 a.m. on a weekday, and I was like, oh, heard a lot about this movie, so let me just see if I'm intrigued. We were like 2 minutes in, and we were just like hooked. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. That's such a mouthful every freaking time. So in today's video, I really just wanted to take a moment to rave about a movie that I watched recently. So yes, I got stuck in the Texas snowstorm for that week after Valentine's Day, and it was really sad not to be making YouTube videos. So I'm happy to be back reviewing a movie that really was a great one to come back to. And this video is going to be a little different from my typical video recaps. This isn't like the type of movie I typically review. I typically review rom-coms or teen movies or a combination of the two. But this movie is just one that was one of those that is so good you just want to talk about it, or I just want to talk about it to someone. I don't plan to go play by play through the plot. I will show a spoiler alert when spoilers begin, but for most of this video, I'm assuming you watched the movie. So this movie is called I Care a Lot, and it's available on Netflix. It came out February 19th. It stars the girl from Gone Girl, Rosamund Pike, as the main character. And honestly, everything I saw from it looked very similar. Like she played a similar character, and she does. So I was intrigued because I did really like Gone Girl. I definitely recommend that movie as well as a thriller, mystery type movie. So this is a dark comedy is what they're calling it. And it was like very dark and twisted, but definitely had a tone, and it was stylized with an aesthetic that made it humorous at times. This is like a great example of dark comedy. I think that term gets thrown around a lot for sometimes boring type media, but this movie really suits that label, I think. I think if you enjoyed Gone Girl and if you enjoyed just suspense and thrillers, which I think a lot of people enjoy that genre, like even me who I don't particularly like action, suspense is sort of that middle ground I feel like most people can agree on. I definitely recommend it, and that's my general review, but now I'm going to move on to sort of spoilers and just my thoughts on various aspects that the movie covered. So like I said, I'm not going into like summary of the plot. I want to start with the log line.
A crooked legal guardian who drains the savings of her elderly wards meets her match when a woman she tries to swindle turns out to be more than she first appears.
This movie is insane. It was very fresh, honestly, and for various reasons. Rosamund Pike plays Marla, who basically her job is to be the legal guardian of elders. Her job is to be a conservator, which is now a sort of hot word with the Britney Spears documentary and situation. If you're familiar with what happened to Britney, this Marla lady, her whole job and mission and scam is to get people into conservatorships or guardianships that are elders and sort of drain them of their money, because when you are a conservator or guardian, you have access to the finances of the person. You basically control their whole life. You control where they live. So she is really corrupt. She's really like found all the loopholes in the legal system, found like allies that are doctors or nursing home people. It's super, super messed up, and it is terrifying to watch when you're watching the movie because it feels very like realistic. Like it feels like, oh wait, this can happen? Like I don't know how much of it is like super real, but I think a lot of it is kind of real. I mean, we saw it with Britney Spears. This is exactly what happened. Britney Spears wasn't allowed to be in court when like these decisions were even made, and that was shown in the movie. The elders that she's taking control over don't even appear in court or anything because of how the law is laid out. And it really shows how terribly set up these laws around guardianships and conservatorships are. I mean, we've been new based on the Britney situation, but it's something that like anyone with anything to lose, like money especially, is vulnerable to this kind of like abuse and like legal control that makes no sense. It is truly terrifying. So this is one of those movies that's like almost like horror, but realistic horror. So I think one thing that I found like really refreshing about this movie was that the protagonist is a villain. And I'm noticing a lot of the critiques I've seen, just on Wikipedia, I saw some critiques of the movie saying, oh, they meant to make the main character a feminist icon and failed because there was nothing likable about her. Things like that. And I think maybe American audiences are not used to having like a villain as the protagonist. Like me coming from watching a lot of Mexican media growing up, it is not as uncommon in Mexican media to have sort of the villain be the protagonist and you as the viewer hating the protagonist, because in I Care a Lot, I really hated the protagonist and I was fine with it. I was like rooting against her sort of in many ways. I think that's makes things more interesting. It switches things up. Whether you're Mexican or not, you're probably familiar with this lady. Maybe you're familiar with Teresa. My personal favorite of these is Ruby. These are all the protagonists of these soap operas they're in. American media is so focused on like the hero that it's very rare to have a villainous protagonist at all. I enjoyed it. I felt it was refreshing to have sort of someone I'm rooting against as the main character. So I saw one critique that said this movie is critiquing late-stage capitalism, sort of showing the dark and twisted nature of sort of like the state of our world today. And I think it's an interesting point that like both the protagonist and sort of the antagonist, or the person fighting against her, which is Peter Dinklage's character, they're both like bad people, morally super corrupt, terrible characters. And I think that's sort of showing how like anyone who is this level of ambitious and this level of rich, basically anyone who is pursuing money the way the two main characters are in this movie, they're gonna be a bad person. And I think that was the point of the movie, to show like both sides are wrong. Our protagonist, Marla, she is sort of corrupt, but doing it all very legally and within the rules. Peter Dinklage's character, what is his name? Peter Dinklage's character's Roman, who is like a Russian mafia boss. So he's morally corrupt in that he is like playing outside of the rules and actually like technically a criminal, even though they're both criminals. It just goes to show how like some ambitious people like this, or rich people like this, you're not gonna find like a right side. And I think it was important to like not make the protagonist likable. Like I did not want to root for her. I did not want to root for him. So I think that was like a great commentary. I hope it was intentional. I imagine it was intentional, but there's no right side, whether you're doing it in the rules or outside the rules. So basically the whole movie, we get the setup about how Marla is a well-oiled machine, convincing the state to give her guardianship over these elders. It is all very methodically perfected, this system she has to sort of take control over these people's estates. And we get that in the setup. That is sort of the first chunk of the movie. Then she sort of sets her sights on this great potential victim. That's Jennifer Peterson, played by Diane Wiest. Marla executes her whole thing with Jennifer, and later we realize that this Jennifer Peterson lady, she's not what she seemed. She's actually the mother of a Russian mafia boss type, which is Roman, that I talked about, Peter Dinklage's character. And sort of the rest of the movie plays out with Marla and Roman sort of fighting each other, like in these very like intricate, complicated, and sneaky ways. Roman's trying to get his mother back and out of the guardianship of Marla, and Marla is trying to keep this lady because she's like, she must be very valuable if everyone's obsessed with her. Both obsessed, both very smart and criminally minded, you could say. So they are great matches for each other. And that is the suspense of like the whole movie. It's them trying to like get at each other in different ways, at a certain point trying to kill each other. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Another element to this character, this Marla character, is that she is queer. We see her have a relationship with her partner, like her partner in crime technically, but also her partner in life type deal. She's in love with this woman. I found that very interesting for representation because I think it's hard because I think queer representation has gone through like a huge journey, obviously, in the media. Back when like queer characters weren't sort of a thing in media, we had sort of queer-coded villains, and I mostly think of like cartoon type, like the Powerpuff Girls villains like Scar and Ursula. They're characters that are not queer, we're not told are queer, but they have traits of sort of queerness that are supposed to maybe deter kids or deter people from desiring those qualities. Obviously it failed and that's fucked up that these villains were queer coded, but I think nowadays they're more like iconic because of how like distinct and like cool they were because they were sort of queer coded. Then we get into this era, and especially like in the 2010s, of like pushing for diversity and representation in all kinds of ways. We get more of like the queer person character that is kind of like flawless or is flawed in ways that are like only endearing. So they're only allowed flaws that are endearing. Writers are sort of maybe too scared to make this character villainous or make this character flawed in a way that is more like serious flawed because they don't want to come off as like, oh, queer people are villainous. And this is just a generalization. I'm sure there's characters out there. I like that we're moving in a direction where it's becoming more that, I hope. I hope. And this movie is a good example of having a queer protagonist that is pure evil. This lady is evil. She's just queer too. Like, it doesn't mean queer people are villainous. It just means like this lady is villainous and we're queer. That's it. And this is what I was talking about too in my feminist media video, where I analyze sort of like how feminism evolved in the past decade and representation in media of all that. This is a good example of a piece of like feminist media, and the character is extremely flawed in that she is evil, she is morally bankrupt, yet she's still like a feminist, and gender roles played a big part in the movie in general. We saw scenes where she was always underestimated and would prove people wrong and would just like, she was very, very powerful. This is a feminist depiction of a character, a feminist character, you could say. She just happens to be evil too. And we're not rooting for her. This is more the direction I'm seeing things going in, and I think it's good for just representation in general to have characters just be people rather than just being whatever label they are. They didn't try to redeem Marla in many ways. There may be times where we're supposed to feel a little sorry for her, but like, I don't think they redeemed her in any way, especially at the end, where I really expected she was gonna get sort of her karma sooner than she did, because she did get her karma. But I was just shocked, like, she wasn't getting her karma, and I was like, please, she needs some poetic justice for all the harm she's caused. At the very last second, she gets that karma. It's just very fresh and very interesting to show sort of a queer and feminist character that is also a villain. And I see these critiques, I feel like they're a little short-sighted in that they're not seeing sort of the bigger picture. So I want to take a second to talk about the girlfriend character for a sec, which so she is gorgeous. So I'm still gagged. I found out who she was. So when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, this girl is gorgeous. Like, what modeling agency did they get her from? She played Fran. And then I Googled just now, like looking for information about the movie in general. And I see who she is, and she is Eiza Gonzalez. So apparently in the US, she's also been in Baby Driver and Fast and Furious. So those are movies I haven't seen before, so I didn't know she was that involved in American media yet. I didn't know she had like a big career in the US too, but I know this girl as like the star of a novela in Mexico called Lola Eras una vez. It's an adapted Cinderella story in novella form. She was like a teen star of Mexico. I would compare her career to maybe like an Ashley Simpson. That is because so everyone can have their own opinion, to each their own, about plastic surgery. Personally, I'm very for plastic surgery. I love it. I live for it. I do come from a very like plastic surgery positive household growing up, which I now realize is unconventional, but I'm just used to plastic surgery being like a normal part of people's lives. This teen star, Eiza Gonzalez, she was known for being one of these like more like distinct looking women. Like she just had like a more pronounced nose and like pronounced features that were great because they made her unique and stand out. But like were not maybe like conventional beauty standards as well. She reminds me a lot of like how Ashley Simpson was known for her like prominent nose and her like alternative look. And then there was a certain point where she got all this work done and it was beautifully done, like great work done, and her face completely changed. Same goes for Eiza Gonzalez and Ashley Simpson. They both had this like turning point in their careers where they changed their physical appearance. I'm just like shook that was her. Like that's what I mean. Like I didn't even recognize her because I still remember her as like the teen look. That was wild. I was just gagged that it was her. Maybe this is super old news to people that did recognize her. I just did not recognize her at all, but I'm just tripped out. That was her. And also she looked so young, and good for her. And that if I got plastic surgery, that's the kind of work I'd like to get done, please. So as for other members of the cast, I was excited to see a lot of familiar faces. I mean, Rosamund Pike and Peter Dinklage, of course. They're like sort of the main ones. But Diane Wiest, I've seen her before. Also, Mark, Damian Young from The Comeback, who plays Mark in The Comeback, which is my favorite show, like I've said in my channel. He is in this, playing like a asshole type too. This guy named Chris Messina, which I hadn't seen him before, but I've been watching The Mindy Project ever since I did my feminist media video, and he is like one of the cast members of The Mindy Project. The main critique I would have of this movie, I don't care that the villain was the main character at all. I thought her obsession with money, the origin of that was a little unclear to me, and I sort of wanted more information about why this lady wanted so much money. Like, at a certain point, she was just like, I just want, like, all the money, which maybe it's commentary that, like, people don't even have a reason, they just are obsessed with money, but I was craving a little more origin or backstory or context about why she wanted so much money. She didn't seem like this luxurious person either, obsessed with like a certain like jewelry or shoes or fashion or cars or anything specific that's like, what is this money funding that you're so obsessed with? Finally, let's talk about the ending, which I think was really well done and crazy. The whole movie was super suspenseful, but the end was like really unexpected in that Roman and Marla sort of agreed to actually work together and make her scam basically a huge corporation funded by Roman's drug money or whatever. It was interesting to see her playing this almost like girl boss type character to the news and the media of their world. And how, if she was in the real world, she would be like revered for what she's done for guardianships and all these things. And it's a good warning sign if you're ever sort of like enamored with like a big CEO. Sorry to tell you, they could have like very morally questionable things going on behind the scenes, just like she did. I mean, this is an extreme example, but it is not out of the question. So I think that was a good touch to have her there and shown that way. And I was really mad because I really thought she was off the hook. Like, she was just gonna continue scamming people forever. And then at the very, very last second, she gets her karma and gets shot. Which I was not complaining. But it does suck that, like, so many of these people that were accomplices to her also deserve karma for it. Roman, the shady doctor, the shady doctor got her got her punishment. The judge of the court, Fran, the girlfriend, like all these people that are enjoying the benefits and rewards of this scam, they all deserved also punishment for it. And it sucks we didn't get that. Like, yes, it was easy at first for me to root for, like, okay, Marla got her punishment and I'm happy about it. But it's also, you have to think about, like, but all her accomplices didn't get, or most of her accomplices didn't get a punishment, and that's, like, how the world works. So that's just, like, very interesting. It really made me think about a lot of things. It made me, like, scared of the legal system, which is, yeah, what else is new? Those were my thoughts on I Care a Lot. Please let me know what you thought of the movie. I would love to know. Any other analysis or interesting takes that you have, please comment below. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. Let me know of any other movies I should review. I upload videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm trying to do twice a week, and I've been very consistent about it. But you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Twitter and Instagram to get notified when I upload new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.